Well, hello everyone. Hopefully everyone's having a nice Wednesday evening. This is another watercolor workshop with artist Megha Mehra. This is a program presented by the Loudoun County Public Library System. And my name is Jeremy Worley, and I work in the program department of LCP. I'll be your host today. If you have any questions or comments during the program, please feel free to use the chat box at the bottom of the screen, and I can relay them to the artist. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our artist tonight. Megha is an award-winning artist specializing in still life and realistic watercolors. Today, she's going to guide us through the steps to paint a wonderful fall leaves and acorn image. Thanks for being here tonight, Megha.
Thank you, Jeremy. Happy fall, everyone. Yes, that time of the year where everybody's at Walmart shopping and enjoying pumpkin. Yes, very excited to be here. Thank you so much, LCPL, for always giving opportunities to artists and the patrons who, no matter what, attend these events and keep our enthusiasm going to share our knowledge again and again. As you all know, we're going to paint this nice little painting about fall leaves and acorns. I know they're everywhere, and I think this is the most beautiful time of the year after spring because the weather is changing. Everything looks so beautiful, and everything smells so good everywhere. So before we start, I want you to do the drawing. And you can see the drawing is pretty simple, just two acorns and two leaves. And don't worry too much about the details. Get started with the drawing. And once the drawing is done, I'll explain everything what we need and how we're going to actually start planning a subject like this. If you're not good at drawing, totally fine. Don't get mad at yourself. It's okay. Drawing itself is a very big skill. We're going to focus on painting and just enjoying throwing some colors on the paper and just enjoy the painting today. So get started. Any questions, please let me or Jeremy know, and I'm happy to answer even while I'm painting. It could be even the silliest question. So get started, and slowly I'll get into the colors and everything. The color is pretty simple. If you look at the look at the picture, I'm trying to keep the focus right now on the drawing, so I'm not moving anything. I think some people like it the way I draw it. I usually keep the drawing in advance because I don't want to waste a lot of time in drawing. I'm a slow drawer. I can paint fast, but cannot draw very quickly. I take my time. That's why I always keep the drawing. And if you go onto the library website, or I think even in the chat, Jeremy has already sent the link, the reference pictures and the line drawing, so that you can keep it ready for your future watercolor workshops. I just feel it helps everyone to stay calm. I'll give about 7-8 minutes more to draw, and then we'll get rolling with our colors and planning and everything. Just remember to enjoy as much as possible. I know some of you are painting for the first time in watercolors, and a lot of people fear watercolors because once you put that water and paint on the paper, everything goes out of control. And I'll teach you how you can control watercolors in many ways. It's not a difficult medium, it's a different medium. It requires more patience than all other mediums that I know, like acrylic, oils, and pastels. If you give it a little bit time, you can control this medium. And the best part of this medium is the transparency that occurs when you start putting colors on this paper. Of course, the quality of materials matter, the quality of your paints, your paper, your brushes, all that matter when you look at the end result, I only use professional grade paints and paper and everything. And I know you might be thinking, I'm just starting into watercolor, so why would I invest a lot into these materials? Because if you start with really bad or cheap material, you will never be able to get that quality or that end result which you're looking to achieve. And that will just make you frustrated and you will give up on watercolors. That's what most people do. So when I started painting, I bought the cheapest material that I could buy at Walmart or Michael's or anything. And I got very frustrated. So I started investing slowly, little by little, into good materials. And that's when my painting improved a lot. So it's not a lot to invest. You can just pick 6 colors, just 2 brushes, and good paper. That's all. If you are interested, I can send you the list of materials that I use and where you can buy them for cheap. Don't go to Michael's or anything because they are really expensive. You can go to many other online websites that sell professional grade paints, that and this they offer a lot of discounts, a lot of free shipping. That's where I buy online. So if you're interested, just send me an email. I can put my email on the chat, meghawatercolor@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to share my list of materials, what I like, and um, that's where you can find the best materials. So about 3-4 minutes more, we'll get started exactly at 6:40.
And I will let everyone know we record these programs for the Loudoun County Online Programs channel on YouTube. So you can always do, try it tonight and then you can try it again, just work on it. You're improving your painting each time. So we like to make them available to watch them after the fact.
Yes, that's the best part of LCPL. They record everything. And if you like, you can send me your paintings after this class or even later, anytime, and I will give you a written feedback. I'll be happy to give you a feedback, what you can improve on, uh, what to choose, what not to choose. And that way you can improve your paintings next time. So feel free, everyone.
And I was telling Mika earlier, one of the best parts about doing it in person is seeing everyone's paintings. So we would love for you to share them at the end of the program if you want to send them to our email addresses. We would love that.
Yes, I still get a lot of emails after every workshop. People ask me, what could I have done better? Or this is my first time, and they get so excited. So, yes, that's how we keep the communication going. And a lot of people have actually sent me a list what they would like to paint next time. So, if you have anything in mind, then feel free to write. Maybe it's a bunny, maybe you want something with Christmas or holidays, Thanksgiving. I don't know, whatever you feel like, just send it across to me and then I'll try to make it happen. Okay, everyone, 2 more minutes. We are going to get started. Okay, let's get started. People who are drawing, keep drawing. We still have time to get started, but I'll get into the technical part of it. Okay, so here is what we are going to paint today. A few leaves, acorns, and you can see there's a wooden, I don't know, like a bark or something. Um, not maybe, I don't know what it is, but exactly something related to wood. So I'll try to finish as much as possible, but if not, I'll at least show you how we can finish the rest of it. But my main focus is to do this part. Now, when you start a painting like this, what goes into your mind? Like, how do I start? Should I do the acorns first, or should I do the leaves first? Or should I do the background first? It really doesn't matter how you start. It's completely a personal choice how you want to get started. Some people want to get done with the background, some people want to get done with the leaves. I go back and forth between the subjects because I am also trying for one layer to dry. And then while this is drying, I want to go ahead and get started somewhere else. The only thing I plan sometimes is when I put my hand down here, which part is dry so then I can move. So that's the only thing I sometimes think like, okay, maybe I'll finish this part so that I can put my hand here and paint the rest of it. But otherwise, it really doesn't matter. And then I know a lot of them think like, oh, there's so many colors here, like how to pick colors. Colors, yes, completely a personal choice. I try to stick to the photos, whatever colors are in it, but not always. Sometimes I add my own. Sometimes I don't want to be just be copying a photograph. So if you want to paint this leaf blue, feel free to do it. It doesn't matter, but I'm going to stick to what the photograph says. The other thing what people think or cannot get through is how much paint should you put on a paper? Because you can just grab a lot of paint on your brush and start painting, and then you get stuck that, oh, I've already taken so much paint and this doesn't look three-dimensional. When in the realistic form of painting, things have to look three-dimensional, right? The reason why this looks like an acorn is because of the three-dimensional shape of it. So when you paint in watercolors or any medium, the only thing that you should think is what shape is it? Okay. Most of them are like ovals or circles, or here, if you see, this is more like a triangle, like the leaf, or you can see this more like a flattened oval. And this is obviously like a parallel line. So think of any object that you're trying to paint in the form of simple shapes: square, circle, rectangle, triangle, and those things. So that will always make it very simpler. The other thing that you want to think is the values. Now, I know it's a big word. What are values? Values means lightness or darkness of a paint or a color. Now, if you see the black and white picture here, you will understand how dark this paint is supposed to be when compared to what's adjacent to it. Okay, you can see this is lighter and this is super dark, and this is somewhere in the middle. So when you try to pick your paint or how much paint you need to add, think of these things like, hey, this one has to be darker than this. Okay, so be careful when you pick, and it's always to take less paint because you can always go ahead and add. But if you put a lot of paint, then it's hard to remove, especially in watercolors. It's hard to scrub that paper, and if the paper ruins and everything gets damaged. So I'm going to start very low and light. Same thing here. See the contrast here. The reason why this looks three-dimensional is because of these contrasting values. Okay. If this was not dark, this would not really shine off here. So this is something you keep in mind. Just two things. Everything in the world is made of shapes. Everything, your nose, the tree outside, everything is just nothing but a simple shape. And everything has values. And it depends based on how the light is falling. This is a shadow here. That's why it's so dark. And look here, this is so light because it's light. Maybe sun was here, okay? Or some kind of light is falling upon here. Just few things in mind. And I'll teach you how you can take your paints. Now, a lot of people ask me, okay, I don't know how much paint to pick. When you think of values, I'm going to explain just 5 simple terms. Okay. I'll try to show what I'm trying to take. I'm just taking a single color. It's purple here. And think of this in terms of really consistency that you use in everyday life. I'm just going to take a lot of water and very less paint. It's super watery. Okay. You can see it's so dull. It's so pale. Let's call this as tea. You know how green tea looks like, really pale green tea. Okay. So this is one value. I'm going to take the same color here. If you want, you can practice this along with me. I'm going to take more paint now and less water. Maybe a little more, you can say. So this is, you can call this as coffee, tea and coffee. You got two things in your life. Next, we'll go with more paint. It's a bit too dry. You can see it's darker than this one. We can call this as milk. And this is just your regular milk. It's not your 2% milk or your almond milk and things like that. It's not your oats milk. It's your regular vitamin D whole milk. Okay. Next, I'm going to add more paint and really less water. You can see it's nice and thick, but still flowing. Okay. We can call this as cream. Okay. Cream is still fluid, right? So it's thicker, but still flowing. Next, we can add really a lot of paint. And you can see it's not that flowing. It's more like a paste. We can call this as butter. Excuse my handwriting. I really have bad handwriting, but tea, coffee, milk, cream, butter. Now we're going to continue the same concept when we are going to get into our painting. Okay. It is simple, but yes, it takes time to practice. So just remember these 5 things and then we'll get into the painting. Okay. Colors. What colors are we choosing? Like I said, choose what you like. I don't care what color leaf it is. You can see a lot of yellows, something more of orange or darker yellows. There's some greens, lots of browns, some orange that's on the acorn, lots of browns, darker browns where there's a lot of stem. And this background here, which is like a bark or a wood feeling, it is really dark, almost like dark brown, blackish tone. We'll stick to just 3, 4 warm colors, lots of reds too. You can even add a little bit of pink here because that you can see the fall colors are so daring and bold that you can really go bold with lots of reds and pinks. That's what we're going to do. I'll try to keep my palette as close as possible so that you could see a lot of it, but I won't be able to do it all the time. So here are the colors I am picking. Yellow. There's another yellow here. This is quinacridine gold. It doesn't matter if you don't have it. Anything that's warmer than this, darker yellow, you can say. I do have some red. I have some dark pink here. Some orange. I have brown. I do have some dark brown here. And maybe I'll use black. I usually don't, but today I might. Okay, I also have some green here. So just 4, 5 basic colors. You really don't have to get too complicated with it. So I'll give you guys a minute to get your colors together and then we'll start painting. Any questions, please let me know. And please stop me if I go way too fast. Sometimes I can go very fast. So if you're not able to catch up with me, please put it in the comment. I hope everyone can hear my voice clearly. Any problem, please let us know. While I'm waiting, I am just trying to mix a few of the colors, just keeping them ready. I take a little bit of water and just try to make a little bit of like a puddle here so that I can pick them very quickly. Because remember, the minute you put some water on your paper, it'll start to dry. Okay. And your results will greatly affect the way your paper is, how dry it is, how wet it is. All those things matter. So I'm just wetting some of the paints here so I can quickly pick them, cleaning my brush each time. Okay, I think this is good. All right, let's get started. I'm going to use a black and white to take a reference because I want to see how light or how dark this is. I'm going to start with this area because the paint is really less here. It's almost the white of the paper. So again, you don't have to paint a lot. In watercolors, the way you paint white is you just leave that area. You don't put a lot of paint on it, and the white of the paper is actually the white color. You can use white paint, but maybe very sparingly, not a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this light lemon yellow, sorry, and I'm going to just start adding in few areas, super light. Now remember, the places where I don't want any paint, I'm going to just leave it as it is. These leaves don't have to be perfect the way it is in the photograph. Remember, it's nature, and nature is not perfect. So you can actually take some advantage of nature here and just make some changes. Portraits are difficult, and structures like architecture is different because you cannot really draw like a slant or a crooked wall or a building. So those things, drawing matters a lot. But with nature, you can actually go a little easy. Now I've already put some paint. While this is wet, I'm going to take some of that darker yellow, like the quinacridone gold or any warm yellow, and start adding some darker paints here. Why I added this paint immediately was because I wanted to do a technique called wet on wet, which means adding wet paint on wet paper. With this, the colors will really mingle on the paper. You don't have to do a lot. It will just start blending by itself. And if you still want while it's wet, I can go a little darker. I'm going to take a bit of pink or red and go into these areas because these areas are super dark. And I'm taking a little thick paint, almost like a milk or creamy consistency, because I want these things to mingle right away on the paper. You can add a bit of orange, you can add a bit of red. Remember, fall, go bold, go nice colors here. I think this is good enough for this leaf or this shape. It's better to refer them as shapes than giving them a name, because sometimes you don't know what that name is. So let's call it as a shape. Okay. I'll let this dry and move on to maybe this leaf here. I'll give you guys a minute to catch up. I just took a little bit of paper towel to get some paint off. I didn't want some paint there, but this is how you lift paint. It's already wet, so I can lift it off right now. Okay, let's go on with this shape now. Remember, I'm going to talk only in terms of shape as much as possible. How about we do wet on wet here? I'm just going to take a clean brush, no paint here, it just has water. I'm going to wet this area with clean water, just this small area. It just has clean water and nothing else. Now, I'm going to go back again with my yellow again. And just drop color here. You can see, because it's already wet, the paint will start moving. Okay, it's already wet. Let's take advantage and add some of the orange here, bit of red. If you add a lot of water here and then add more watery paint, it will just form a puddle here. So you have to be careful how much water and paint to pick. That comes with experience. It takes a bit to gauge how much your paintbrush can hold that water. If you're using just acrylic brushes, um, they may not hold a lot of water. You get special watercolor brushes, some of you don't know maybe, they hold a lot of water. So I usually, the one I'm using, that can hold a lot of water. So what happens is I can keep going with it. I don't have to go and dip again and again in the palette. This really helps if you're painting large paintings. So if you're really into watercolors, invest in good brushes. You will be so much less frustrated. And the good thing is now you get a lot of good cheap watercolor synthetic brushes that are not that expensive. So that's nice. Everybody can try. We finish this area. I'm going to try to finish these two small areas so that we are done with this part. looking at your black and white picture and your photos to gauge where you are. You can completely get lost into a painting. So that really helps. And I'm not being very specific of what colors I choose. I'm going back and forth with same, the yellows and oranges and the reds. So it really doesn't make sense that I'm going to pick yellow again or orange again. Just go with the flow, see what you like. Okay. We might have to revisit some of the areas because we want some darker tones. But first, we're going to let them dry. I'm going to take a bit of brown here and try to get this area. And I use almost like a buttery consistency. Because it was so thick that paint did not move anywhere else. It was just right there. Okay. I'm going to wait for a minute so that you guys can catch up. Okay, let's get back to our painting. Now, before I move to this part, I want to do a few things here so that while this dries, I can move on here, okay? Let's start with this one, this shape. As you can see, most of the colors are quite similar to what's in the painting. A bit of yellow, brownish, maybe a few tones of oranges here. But I'm going to do this wet on wet. I'm going to wet this area, except this area here, because you can see it's white. And like I said, I'm not going to use any white here. I'm just going to wet the area around it where I don't want any paint. Take some of that lighter yellow. Bit of orange. And then while this is wet, I'll take a bit of brown. I think that's good. I'm just going to stop there and let everything dry now, because I need this layer to dry and then move on with the next part. What is going to come next? Okay. While you guys catch up, then we'll move on to the next one. Before we paint these stems here, we have to let these layers dry. Otherwise, all the colors will just get mixed with each other. Next, we'll come to this shape here, the larger one. Same colors, nice oranges, browns. It is darker than this one. So feel free to add a lot of color, almost like milk consistency. I'm going to use the same wet on wet technique. I'm going to first wet the paper with just water and then start dropping in colors. I know it's hard to see that I am wetting the paper to show that actually I need to focus the light exactly to show you guys that there's water on this area, but I cannot, unfortunately. But just imagine this area is wet with plain water. I'm going to start with nice dark brown on this end. Yeah. Just keep it as nice warm colors. Okay. And just like the other one, I'm going to let this dry. Let this dry, and we can actually finish this part. It's very easy. I'll show you one small technique. It's called dry brush technique. What you do in dry brush technique is you almost take out all the water from your paintbrush through a towel, just scrub it on the towel, okay? And you take some nice thick buttery paint, okay? Your paintbrush has to be almost dry, almost. And then you can see that dry paint on the dry paper. It also creates like a sound here. You can hear that? Yes. So that's how you do the dry brush technique. So that gives sort of texture in watercolors. And that's what we're going to use here. First, I'm going to take some nice dark brown paint, dark brown, and just create these shapes. It's almost like V shape here. And you can take 2 or 3 colors here, maybe one lighter and one darker brown, just to give it a bit of variety, to show that sunlight has been falling at some area. some light, some dark, and you can go with the dry brush technique. I'm going to take a bit of yellow for that dry brush technique here. Okay. We can leave that there and repeat the same thing here on this area. Okay. First, I can take a bit of brown. I see some color here. So just a bit of dry brush here of brown. And then I'm going to take some nice thick paint and make those little textures here. Some light, some dark. You can change the paint color here. It's good. Okay. While this dries, we can move on to this leaf. I'll give you guys a minute to catch up. And I know a lot of you are thinking, looking at your painting, like this doesn't even look anything like the photograph. Yes, probably not right now because we're still not even 50% done. We have still some way to go. And your paintings don't reel, especially when you're painting in realistic form, until it's like 80% through, 85%, because a lot of things have to be readjusted sometimes to make it look three-dimensional. And a lot of people by 50% they do, and they're like, I don't like it, and they toss it away. So don't toss your paintings away. Complete it, no matter how bad it is. Complete your paintings, and you will see the difference. By just completing the painting, you will get better each time. So right now, yes, it doesn't look anything like the photograph. Give it some time. We'll get there. We'll really get there. Again, the same technique. I'm going to do wet on wet. Get some paint, get some water, and just drop lots of paint. As I said, not every paper will show this technique very well. If you don't have a nice absorbent paper, like what I have, it's 100% cotton. It absorbs the paint. It will be a little harder for you to follow this technique, but that's okay. That's not your fault. It's about the paper. So that's why get good paper, good paints, and you'll see how this will just flow. And you'll really love your painting, even if you've never painted, even if you feel that you're not an artist. Everybody's an artist. Anybody who can draw, who can pick a brush and paint and do something, scribble something, is an artist. So you don't have to be like Picasso to be an artist. You can do anything. Same concept. I'm going to drop colors. And if you really want to be good at anything you do, whether it's watercolors or acrylic or anything, paint every day and you'll see the magic. It's almost like muscle memory, like riding a bicycle. You will get so better at it. You will know your colors very well. That's the only way to get better. I am just dropping colors because that's how it looks here on the photograph. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, not exactly the way like what the photograph is. Just give it a little twist of your own. Make it your own painting. Feel free to add purple into that leaf. It's okay. We'll let this dry. Like I said, I was mentioning earlier that why something looks three-dimensional is because of values. See the difference here. This acorn, I'm just referring right now as this acorn, doesn't look like an acorn. Why? This and this is so similar in value. There is no contrast in color. There's no contrast in value. We need to make this stand out. And we'll do this once this thing dries. I can do it right away, but I don't want to confuse all of you. But let this dry. We'll come back and finish this area. But you will see why after some time things will start to look real. Just completing this small area here again. It's the same colors. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish it. Okay. We'll let this dry. We'll come back, let everything come back together. While this, now you can touch the paper and see this is dry. The rest is quite wet. So we will come here and finish the part. But before that, we can, I think, do the stems. I'll give you guys a minute to catch up. Okay. Some areas I'll have to go in and add more color. That's fine because, like I said, it's always easier to add color than to scrub and remove it off. And watercolors dry a little lighter. So you will probably imagine that, hey, I added so much paint on my paper, and when it dries, it becomes so light. That's kind of a property of watercolors. Even the best professional paints, they do dry a little lighter. So totally okay. Don't panic. Next, I'm going to move on to this area, and I'm going to just make these areas darker so that they pop out. That includes the stem. Okay, and again, you don't have to be very specific of what color is stem. It's mostly quite reddish, orangish tones that's on the stem here. And this one's so light here. So make sure this is light and this is dark. So that will really stand out. Like this is behind and this is right in front of you. So we'll just keep that in mind when we put any color to it. I'm going to add a bit of dark here, like a nice dark brown or a mix of dark brown and light brown. And in the middle here, I see like nice light orange here. Next, I'm going to tackle this other stem here. It's much more darker. I'm going to first give it as an outline so that I don't lose it when I paint. So first, I'm going to take a nice darker brown or nice red here. Here I'm going dark with some reddish and brownish tones. Okay. And in between the stem, colors are nice and warm, same of oranges and reds and everything. So I'll stick to that. Maybe even yellows. Okay. Next, I'm going to come to this area, add some darker tones like dark pink, so that this area stands out. I know you must be thinking that, oh, I have to go back in again and add layers. Yes, watercolors are best built with layers. You can obviously go ahead and take a thick coat of paint and just finish it, but it's not going to be transparent. The best quality of watercolors is its transparency. And if you want that transparency, then you have to go layer by layer, especially when you're painting in realistic manner. That's how I paint. I just like it the way it is, layers by layers. It gives me so much more control. I know I can go back and correct things. It takes a bit extra time, but I still like how it behaves. So as Until I get that consistency or that value, I just keep adding darker paint so that it looks real. At this point, I'm sure some of you are frustrated. If you're not, great, keep going. But if you are, don't worry. Probably you just need more practice. It's nothing to worry. You're not a bad painter. You are a good painter. Finish this part. Let's come back to these areas and finish. I'm going to start outlining this shadow area of this. Once again, nice dark brown or dark pink, whatever you want, as long as it is dark, then the area next to it doesn't matter. Believe me, I used to get really, really frustrated with my paintings. And once I started just being patient with it, things improved. I know that takes a bit of experience, but yeah, you can do it. Same way you can finish this area. Okay, now things will start to look real. We are defining the shapes now, giving it some structure. Almost, you can say, like an outline. This is dry. I need a little more paint here. So I'm going to take a bit of brown on this side. In fact, not just here, almost everywhere. I'm going to finish this area. The bottom needs more paint. It has to be darker. Okay, this is good. Maybe we need a few layers here. I'm going to take a bit of brown here and just redefine this area. The reason I need to work again here is I think I used too diluted paint and it's become so light now that I need to just add another layer here. Usually the way I paint, I let every layer dry and only then move on to that layer. But right now I'm not because I have to finish this painting in time. But otherwise you have to just wait it out a little bit and then paint on it. Okay, so this is good. Next, we can maybe add, yeah, we need the shadow here. But before we add the shadow, because it's quite wet, I can do this background. What are the colors? Again, light brown, dark brown, and maybe really dark brown. You can add a bit of black into it. I'm going to just take colors back to back and just paint just drop colors, you can say. It can be red too. You can add any color that you like, but as long as it is what's in the painting. Keeping it very light here. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just mixing colors on the paper. And as I come closer to the leaf, it is going to be super dark and nice because I want that leaf to pop out. As I come here, yeah. Okay. We still need a layer here. We need to go back and add some paint here, but I'll let this dry. Okay, so let this dry. Okay, I need a minute to catch up where to go next. Okay, let's go back to where we started. I'm going to just start tweaking things now. Now, my only thing now, I think we have almost got the structure here, but I need to readjust the values. What is dark and what is light? And I know we need to finish the shadows. But before we do that, we can go back a little bit here, finish some things here. Wherever there's light in the side, adjacent to it, I'm just going to add some darker values. Oops, sorry, that was a wrong paint. Okay. Same way, if there's any adjustments you want to make, this is a good time to add. I think that's good. When you're trying to paint realistically, in fact, any painting, it's important to visit your painting again and again and see if it needs any adjustments. It's very rare that you'll be able to paint everything perfectly the first time, especially if you want a very realistic result. So come back again, see, look at the picture and see what can be adjusted here. Okay, I'm just going to let this dry. In fact, I might use the hair dryer. Okay, quite dry, at least to start working on it. But yeah, a hair dryer is super helpful. It really quickens the process. I'm just going to make a few adjustments, like I need this to be a bit dark. Same way, I'm going to keep moving across the painting now to make a few things dark. I guess this brown didn't turn out to be the way I was hoping. It's just a new color I'm trying. So it's okay. At least I know what's its capacity, but I'm going to take a bit of green and mix a little bit of blue to make it darker. And just add a few greens here and there. Okay. Now we can go ahead and add the shadow. Okay, so what color should the shadow be? Well, it depends on the light. Now, if you have already noticed that depending on the time of the day, your shadows are either really dark or really light, and where you're standing, whether you stand in the sunlight or no, that's how the shadow looks at that point of the time. Usually, shadows have colors that are reflected from their surfaces. So, this shadow here will have colors from this, that's the acorn, and the colors from the leaf here, because it's been placed on the leaf. So it's going to be a mix of that. It's never going to be black. I know it looks so dark in the picture. If you look at the black and white picture, it looks black. And what a mess it would be if we would just add black to it. It has got those colors into it, and that's what we're going to use. So I'm just going to wet that area and add all the colors that we've used, but really dark and nice. The reason I'm wetting, because I want the colors to mingle. If you want, you can do it layer by layer, one by one, but that's just going to take time. So I'm just going to take the same colors and make it super dark. Shadows are not black. So don't make a black shadow. Your painting will look so dull and boring and quite disconnected from the actual subject. They can be gray, they can be colorful, but refrain from keeping it black. Make them beautiful and colorful. See, they look real. That acorn have started to look quite real. and you can actually feel that it's been placed on something right now. And that shadow looks quite real because we did not make it black. The same way, I'm going to wet this paper and add the same beautiful colors that we've been using, the reds, the oranges, the browns, the pinks, everything that you can think of that we just used right now. Just remember, if this painting didn't turn out nice today, this session is recorded. You can go back and always give it another shot. So don't worry, not the end of the world. You can still paint. I am an example. I didn't know how to hold a brush, and now I'm painting, teaching, doing commissions, portrait commissions. So yes, anybody can paint. Just put in some effort, some time. I'm going to add a little bit of more color here. The reason being, I want this to be darker than this shadow to make it look different. Otherwise, they'll all just look same and, it'll not really pop out. And of course, I see a lot of more structural lines here. You can always go and add that. I can show you one or two so that they look like a leaf. To make this more exciting, you can wet your paintbrush with some paint. Nice puddle of paint, you can see that. And you can just splatter in some. I'm just tapping. You can see I'm just tapping this paintbrush loaded with lots of paint slightly. And you can see that this splatter of paint. You can add a bit of orange. You can add a bit of green, right? You can add a bit of yellow. Just make it more fun. Lastly, I know this area is still not dry, but I'll show you how we can do one small area of how these real textures you can do. It's just nothing but, say, in the dry brush technique or really thick paint. And I'll show you how you can do. Once everything is dry, you can just go take lots of paint and keep adding these almost like straight lines. It has to be dark. They're not dark right now. I need to take more paint and darken it. And that's what make the background look super realistic. You can take a larger brush for this. And now I really see that this has started to look so real that you can really tell the difference. I do feel that the yellow, the first wash of yellow that we put in here has faded a little bit. I'm just going to add a really light wash of that first yellow that we used, because I really want this painting to pop with that yellow. It's just, I think that color just so diluted that it started to look dull, and I need some color. It should look like a yellow leaf. That's why I said, right? Sometimes you have to make adjustments again and again. It's a painting. You have to really treat it with a lot of care. Come back again. See, it started to pop. Yeah, that's the yellow I really wanted. Just oops, bit much. Now you can see how things have changed so dramatically just with that addition of a little bit of color, that yellow. It really pops. I think at this point, I'll say that the painting is done. Of course, you can go back, make a few changes. I'll probably clean up a few areas that went a little out of control for me. That's okay. It's part of the painting process. Making adjustments, cleaning up stuff, adding more paint is part of the process. It's not because you're not perfect. It's not because you don't understand how much paint to pick. It is part of the process. I make at least 1,000 changes when I paint a portrait. Keep going back until I get the skin color as I want. I'll give you an example. This is what I've been painting right now. You can see this the skin tones. It's not yet done, but once it's done, it'll look good. But I have to keep going back and forth to make it look real. So enjoy the process, enjoy your painting, and keep painting. That's it from me, everyone. If you have any questions, please email me, send me your paintings. I'll be happy to give you your feedback, and I'll be happy to listen to you what you would like me to paint next time.